Well, hello there, Internet. This is Zach Shaw with the Band in a Month Challenge, Episode 10, Hour 10. I'm going to be creating a band and an EP from scratch in 1 month's time, 215 hours, and we're in Hour 10 right now. I'm really happy with the way things are going, with the exception that I'm not getting to actually work on this project as much as I'd like. It's been about 3 weeks now since we started, and we're now doing Hour 10, so that's averaging about 3 hours a week. So what can I say? It's been very busy, and music is not my main way that I make a living. That's my choice. There was a time when I tried to make it as a musician in a music career and actually did everything that you're supposed to do. Got signed to a label that was really well funded, toured the country a bunch of times, built our fan base up, recorded a great record, a great EP, another, we were making records, we were making fans, but ultimately, there's a lot that happens in terms of trying to get a music career. Some of it's luck, some of it's being in the right place at the right time, but some of it is just the simple fact that for certain kinds of music, that business doesn't scale up to the kind of level where a major label or even an independent label really wants to make an investment in your band. And as a band of that size, let's say you play for a niche audience, like we played garage rock, we had huge pockets of fans all across the country, but it just wasn't enough for someone to come in and say, here, I'm gonna drop 6 figures. Nor would that make any sense for us, really, because unless we wanted to get our advance and pocket that, we're going to be recouping against that advance for as long as we live, unless again we get lucky or we're in the right place at the right time. And so that's another way that sours people out of doing the music career. They actually do get signed to a label and things happen, and they just end up not making any money because they're recouping all the time. I think if you ask your musician friends who've been signed to a label, more of them will have that experience for sure than those who have made money. So the point of this video is kind of to show you that it's okay to be a musician, but to not make that your career. That's a perfectly fine choice. Some stuck-up elitist musicians will tell you, well, you're not a musician because you don't do it all the time and you're not devoting everything to doing that. Well, screw you. I mean, there's a guy out there who I forget his name, but he gives really good songwriting advice. He's got these rules. I don't know. It's on songhack.com, so if you go over there and you look up how to write a hit, he's like the first video result. And I love his tips, and he's a great guy, and he does a lot of cool research. But I really hate this one thing that he says, where he says he's on a plane and some passenger says, oh, what do you do? And he says, oh, well, I'm a songwriter. I'm a professional songwriter. What do you do? Oh, well, I'm a doctor, but I also write songs, And the guy goes, oh, well, then I'm a doctor too. And the doctor says, what do you mean? What are you talking about? He's like, well, I'm a doctor because I put a Band-Aid on my kid when they get a cut, so that makes me a doctor. And I thought about this for a while because, on the face of it, it's got this kind of common sense appeal where it's like, well, how dare you say you're a songwriter if you haven't put in the lifetime of experience that I have and all the hard work, sweat, blood, and tears. And, there's some truth in that, but the reality is you can flip that argument on its head and say, oh, are you going to call a doctor in every time your kid gets a cut? Do you really need that? No, most of the time, anyone can really, take care of people for the majority of their medical needs. If you've got the flu, you stay at home, you cook them soup. And I think the analogy works for music. I think myself as a songwriter, I'm not writing hit songs like that guy was, and I'm not trying to. I mean, maybe that's not the best way of putting it. I'm trying to write hit songs in the sense that I'm trying to write songs that appeal to a great number of people, but I'm going to stick to what I want to do, and I know that, more often than not, that's going to be something that appeals to a niche audience. And for that reason, I think that we're seeing a shift in music away from, musicians wanting to sign with labels, especially if they haven't already established, their band as some sort of business, and you're seeing bands take it into their own hands, and that's what I'm doing here, and that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. Is I'm going to take my music career into my own hands. I'm not just doing it as a hobby. I'm not a hobbyist. I'm a professional musician. I make money playing music when I am dedicated to playing music. Now, I've had a lifetime of experience playing music and not making money, but that's the point of this, is I'm going to take control of my own career, and I'm going to make money playing music, even if that's, 1/5 or even less of my income. In fact, it works out to be a very small portion of my income, but at least I'm making money doing it. And there's always the possibility of growing that business and scaling it up, If people take interest in it, if you have people that could be potential team members, like managers or publishers or that type of thing, you can establish those relationships, and you can still manage your band as a business. And maybe my dream is to make more money playing music, but it's also a realism thing. It's like I know a lot of students that want to be professional video game players, and it's like, yeah, one of you might be that, but probably not. It's the same way with music, but that doesn't mean you should stop playing video games professionally. You can win a contest if you're in the right place at the right time, in the right flow, and you're lucky. So I think you see the point I'm trying to get at. The future of music is musicians, part-time musicians. That's just the way it is. Don't let anyone tell you that a part-time musician can't come up with the kind of art and amazing quality that a full-time musician can. It's a different standard of judgment. A part-time musician is going to have a hard time writing and marketing a song that appeals to a FM rock radio audience, but it can happen. All right, and the more important thing is that you're doing what you love to do. You're making money doing it, or at least breaking even, and it's not a hobby that pays for itself. It's a supplemental income. You can say, if you're making money, then you're making money. All right. So I digress. I've been blathering on. Let's talk about where we're at in the project right now. I've got my little song chart up here, and as you can see, we have 6 songs that are in various states of being written. What I have up here is do I have the idea, and then do I have the super rough arrangement where it's just put into the computer? Do I have the final arrangement? Do I have a rough demo of the music as the way I want it? Do I have the lyrics and the vocals written? Do I have the vocals demoed? And finally, do I have scratch tracks that I can play against for the recording phase? And so, as you can see, we're kind of like, I don't know, maybe a third of the way through, which makes sense because this is hour 10, and we've got 15 hours left in this process. So, and I think some of this end stuff will go much quicker. Like the scratch tracks are basically gonna be there from doing the demos, unless we change tempos or something like that. So we're starting also to get into a little bit more of the concept behind the band. And for those of you who have been watching these last 10 hours or 9 hours, it's not the most exciting stuff to watch, the process of playing a riff 9 million times and then locking something in. So it's going to get a lot more interesting coming forward, because we're going to start to actually define what this band is, what it's named, what the album's named, what the songs are named, what the lyrical content is. Once we hit that lyrical phase, which is coming up real soon, that's when the band's going to start to take on its identity and its concept, and we'll think about design and artwork, and those things need to happen really early on in the process, because we need to establish the band for as long as we can before we release this. We want to build up hype, and so and especially when you're talking about social networks and online presence, giving yourself a big window to just kind of like organically build that without really going out of your way to promote it and say, hey everyone, like I got this new band that's coming, put it up there, and then as you tell your friends about what you're doing, like last night I was out at a new rock club opened up in our town here in Kingston. Awesome club called The Anchor. You should check it out. If you're a musician, you should play there. And so we were over at The Anchor, and I was talking to lots of people about the Band in a Month project. And I realized, I was like, the next time I go out and talk about this project, I should really have somewhere to point them to, so they can go on a Facebook or Twitter or even on a website, and kind of, even if all I have is a picture, all I have is a picture of whatever. Like, people can go in, maybe I can have an email address field, they can sign up. There's got to be a few people out there that are kind of curious about it and want to make sure, they hear about the music. And some of them would be fans of my other music, and some would be friends, and some would be family. And that's your first circle. That's always your first ring of people. Any musician can get those people to support them. That's just, they come with the job. So that's why I've been thinking really hard about committing to the working title of the band, which is Untilted. What you got to do when you name a band is you got to see if there's another band named that. And I think there is another band named Untilted, but they're kind of like, one of those bands that's got like no songs up, to MySpace friends, like the kind of thing where you can tell it was a project that never got off the ground. So don't be discouraged if you see a band named what you named, because it could be just one of these bands that never happened. So in order to commit to that name, I'm going to have to do a little more research and to make sure that there isn't another band named Untilted. And now, the way to protect myself from other people naming their band Untilted is to register with the U.S. Trademark Office. And that's kind of something that pretty much most people don't do. And any band that's ever been the first band named a certain thing, but then had another band come along name and trademark it, it's not like an extremely common thing that happens, but it has happened, and it's happened because that first band did not trademark their name. So I fully intend to trademark my name. However, it is rather expensive. Last time I checked, it was more than $200. So I'll check into it. I'm gonna see. I want to put that item on my budget because that's part of this project. We're going to be building a budget to run our little band business here, and so that's going to be an item that I put for future expenditures. If the project continues to make money, I will budget some money to go register that trademark, and just cross my fingers that someone doesn't see this and think that's an awesome name and beat me to it. Quite frankly, as long as you trademark before you get a huge if you don't trademark but you haven't gotten a huge amount of traction, whatever, you can change your name. Bands change their names, and if I had established 1,000 fans under the name Untilted, that would not be good. But by the time I've established 100 fans under that name, then I'll have the money to go and register the trademark, and then I can control that forever. No other band in the U.S. can name themselves Untilted because I own the trademark to that name for bands. You could definitely put out a Febreze Untilted, or open a restaurant called Untilted. That's how the trademark law works. As long as it's not creating confusion in the same industry, you can have different things named different things. But in terms of other bands, once I get that trademark, so that would be one other thing I could do, is do a trademark search and see if anyone owns that name as a band. Alright, you're learning a lot today. I just felt like sitting down and kind of, a lot of these videos have been, I'm hoping you're learning a lot. A lot of these videos have been just kind of like quick updates of like, hey, I'm at this spot, and here I am with the songs. So I might get into some totally original songwriting here at hour 10. But if I'm still writing songs by like hour 12 or 13, that's not good, because that's halfway through the songwriting process, and what I really need to do is work on vocals and work on really polishing these songs into complete concepts. It's so important because I have such a limited time to record, and that really simulates real life. I mean, a lot of times, especially if you're going to be paying for studio time, you have a very limited window where you can actually record, so you better know exactly what you're doing before you get into the studio, and that's what's going to happen with my polished demos here. So there we have it. Let's make some music. Episode 10, Band in a Month.